Welcome to another Rambling Review from Adventures in TV Land. For today's Rambling Review, we're going to talk about the movie Unsung Hero. Unsung Hero is a kind of a family biopic about the David Smallbone family. The movie focuses mostly on David, but not solely. Now, this is based on a true story. David Smallbone, in the late 80s, he was a very influential music producer in Australia for the Christian music industry. Was highly influential. Had a very successful career. After a successful tour with the band Striper, David, he ends up bringing Amy Grant to Australia for the Australian tour. This is around 1991. There was a worldwide recession. It actually hit Australia particularly hard. The recession in the early 90s was the worst economic downturn in Australia since the Great Depression in the 1930s. So the tour, Amy Grant's tour, was not as successful as it should have been, and David Smallbone loses like $500,000 because of it. He's going to have to sell everything, his home, everything. He makes a call and he receives a job offer from Carmen. But he comes to America. He brings his family to the United States. They fly over, then they take a long train trip, and they arrive in Nashville, Tennessee. And they arrive with hardly anything. They just a few belongings, and that's it. Their home has no furniture. And then David, he goes to meet his boss, Carmen, the next day. And it turns out to be the job offer that he had no longer exists, because the music industry, like many, even the Christian music industry, like almost any type of artistic or entertainment type field, it can be very, very fickle. And so David has no job, and they have hardly any money, and he has his family. Forgot to mention this earlier. He has a family of, including himself, 8 with another one on the way. Him and his wife, they have 6 children with a 7th child. His wife, Helen, is pregnant with their 7th child. They have to some way find a way to live. And so their lives become completely dependent upon God. They pray about everything. They lift all their needs up, all their wants up to Jesus, to the Lord in prayer, and God provides, because his daughter Rebecca, she has an amazing voice, extremely talented. And so David has to decide, first of all, whether to continue pursuing his own dream or to help Rebecca pursue hers. And in all of this that's going on, there is David's wife, Helen, who's kind of the glue that holds the family together. An unsung hero. Yeah, now I will say this film, I found it just because of the father connection there. I reflect a lot in my own life with my own dad. I had a lot of memories that came about because of that. I also, because of the time period this takes place in, the early 90s, I was about the same age as Rebecca during this film. And some of these names, these musicians, this is music I knew and I was familiar with and was part of my youth growing up. So that was a time in some ways to reflect upon that too and remember those things. I liked it because it's not your typical Christian movie where, a person prays, has it like a lot of times Christian movies, they'll have a moment where, a person has a come to Jesus moment, they turn their life around, and then there's kind of a happy ending and there's not much struggle after that point. That doesn't happen in this film. This film is a somewhat realistic portrayal of just life in general and giving things up, and even in the tough times, lifting your life up to God. There are some very hard things that happen, and David Smallbone, neither David or his wife Helen are perfect, and this movie portrays that, but it portrays their struggles and them coming to grips with that and coming to grips with their faith and relying upon that faith and God to help them through the difficult times. If you can put aside the Christian element of this film, there's things even a person who is not a believer, who is not a person of faith, could take away from it. Unsung Hero, on a scale of 1 to 10, I would give it about a 6.5. It's much better than your typical Christian movie. It's better than an average film. It's well done. It's well written. The cinematography, it looks like a major motion picture, like this was produced at a Hollywood studio. Actually looks better than many Hollywood studios things because there's so much CGI anymore, but that's another story. Yeah, it's really well done, and I do recommend it, especially if you are a person of faith. It's an interesting story too. I mean, you can look more about the family, the Smallbone family. Rebecca St. James was a huge artist in the 1990s in the contemporary Christian music scene. Her younger brothers, Joel and Luke, years later, they formed the group For King and Country, which is still quite popular and is actually touring the time this film came out. So, well, this has been another rambling review from Adventures in TV Land. Until next time, that's a wrap.